An absolutely spectacular day in Rigby, Idaho. Yes, I'm back in Rigby. Alan here from RVAcrossAmerica.net. And I've got a topic for you that's going to be extremely interesting. But I want to share first that I'm back in Rigby for just 4 days, 3 nights. I just came from Starvation State Park. By the way, I'm feeling a lot better. My voice is getting a lot better. I'm still coughing a little bit, but not much. So that's definitely an improvement. And for getting into the latter third of October, the last third of October, first of all, the weather's amazing. I mean, Rigby today is going to be in the low to mid 70s. I spent 4 days and 3 nights in Starvation State Park just prior to Rigby, which is where I went from Vernal. So you kind of get a sequence. I spent about 5 weeks in Vernal and then 4 days and 3 nights in Starvation. Beachfront, kayaking each day, temperatures in the upper 60s to low to mid 70s each afternoon before the wind picked up. They've got a weird pattern there where the wind picks up mid-afternoon and then blows well into the night and then calms down by morning. It's strange, but that's Starvation. It was spectacular. It was far more like summer this year than my visit to Starvation last year. So you'll see some footage of that. I'm going to put a post together that talks about Starvation, and I've got some kayaking footage and just, some great stories. It's a great time of year to visit. Any time of year is a great time of year to visit Starvation, but particularly in October. Potentially November if the weather holds up. But it looks like the weather is about to change and change pretty radically. Today is October 20 as I record this, and within the next week, I may very well be pulling into a campsite that has snow on the ground. And I'll explain more to you about that in the coming days as I kind of bring you closer to where I'm headed. And that is Montana, to let the cat out of the bag. But I'll fill you in greater detail. Nevertheless, this post is going to be at RVAcrossAmerica.net /camper buying tip. Once again, /camper buying tip. What's my tip? Well, the post is about the fact that some campers are becoming more and more electric. And, some people may say, well, that's great. We're using less propane, less fossil fuels. I do need to point out that electricity comes from electric plants and power plants, and many of those power plants rely on coal. But regardless of whether you're environmentally sensitive to that or not, and I am environmentally sensitive. Being a traveler, you've got to be an environmentalist, but I'm also a realist. Our power comes largely from fossil fuels still, and I don't want to get on a soapbox on that, but that's just the reality. Anyway, is there a significance or a consequence to the fact that some RV campers, whether you buy brand new or recently used, let's say a used camper built within the last 3, 4, 5 years, do you have to be on the lookout for something? And the answer is yes. You do not want a camper if you plan on doing any significant boondocking that's dry camping at all. So this is a particular call out to potential boondockers. If you're going to do any boondocking at all, be aware of the fact that a camper that relies on electric, much of that electric is 110 volt AC, which means you need shore power, household current, a generator, an inverter that's going to convert the batteries to 110 AC, but that only works for so long. So I get into the whole issue in more detail in the post. And again, the post is at RVAcrossAmerica.net /camper buying tip. Once again, camper buying tip. So, You need to think about that, and it's not just for people buying brand new campers, but some of the camper manufacturers think that they're going green by putting in more electric appliances as opposed to appliances that function on propane. I, for myself, really like the idea of having propane. Now, here's the other thing you need to think about. Let's say you're a first-time RV camper buyer, and you're planning on traveling a region or the entire country, and you want to go campground to campground to campground, and you've heard about KOAs and Good Sams and things like that. Well, one of the things that people find out when they start RV camping is that what they originally intended as their camping modus operandi, their camping plan, is not necessarily what their camping plan ends up being. They may have thought, well, I'll be able to stay at KOAs, or I'll go join a Thousand Trails or something like that. And they find out that's not all it's cracked up to be. You may have heard a truck in the background, and that's because these private campgrounds, and I'm back at Yellowstone Lakeside, which is neither anywhere near Yellowstone or lakeside to anything. But it's where I spent April through August, or into August. So I figured, what the heck, come back for 4 days and 3 nights to stay here. I know the area. I've got to do a lot of shopping in Idaho Falls. I'm going to the Idaho Falls Farmers Market tomorrow. So that's going to be a highlight of my stay here. And then Sunday I leave, and I'll be heading up in the direction of Salmon, Idaho. Anyway, what your original plan was when you bought or planned to buy a camper may change. You may say, well, I'm not a boondocking type. I'm not a dry camper. I'm going to be connecting to power sources, shore power, as we say, a power pedestal outside the campsite, outside the camper, at your campsite. And that's how I'm going to do it. And then you start camping that way, and you start finding out how closely packed the RV sites are. By the way, I'm really glad to have left Vernal. I was really glad to get to Starvation. Wait till you see how far away my nearest neighbors were and how quiet it was. The most I heard towards sunset was a couple of boats out on the lake and their wake as it rolled onto the shore. That I can live with. But again, I'm back in the campsite here, and it's fairly packed, although I don't happen to have any neighbors on either side, which is kind of nice. But again, you find out that while camping like this is something you're going to do from time to time, you don't necessarily always want to do it. And the alternative is dry camping or boondocking. And if you've got a camper which has too much electric in it, and that's going to be a problem. All right, that's going to create a problem for you. So I get into the details in the post, again, over at rvacrossamerica.net/camper buying tip. And it's a big one. And I get into detail there, so I'm not going into the weeds, so this post doesn't become longer than it already is. Anyway, Alan here, rvacrossamerica.net/camper buying tip, coming to you from Rigby, Idaho, if only for a few days. Take care.